Good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Gulshan Kumar, on behalf of IIC and Media and Communication Studies, Jagannath International Management School, Vasantpur, would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Bhaskar Gupta. We are fortunate to have with us Dr. Bhaskar Gupta, who will be enlightening us on the topic, which happens to be design thinking. Dr. Bhaskar Gupta is a veteran academician cum research scientist and director, NII TRA Technical Campus, and joined as an officiating director and dean at IIMT Group of Colleges, Greater Noida in June 2020. Dr. Gupta completed his BE in 2001 and MTech with honors in 2006. Dr. Gupta holds a doctorate degree in signal and image processing area, while electronics and communication has been his core area. Dr. Gupta, in his academic career spanning for more than 19 years now, has taught various subjects at both UG and PG level in many renowned institutes such as AKGEC, ABES, IMS, and DIT. He is presently working as a president of IIC Cell and trained as an innovation ambassador by Ministry of Education Innovation Cell. He is also the coordinator of NISP and area. He has been taking sessions on innovations, entrepreneurship, design thinking, IPR, BMC, technology readiness level, critical thinking since last 10 years across the country. He is a startup founder and currently handling MSME-based incubation center having more than 35 startups. He has more than 5 Indian patents published, 2 copyrights, and 2 book chapters in CRC Press. Dr. Gupta wears many hats as an academician professional. His works, other than basic teachings, include publishing and presenting several papers in national and international journals, guiding MTech projects, working on various state and central government sponsored projects, and traveling around USA, South Korea, Oman, Afghanistan, Dubai, and Ethiopia on academic and research mission in association with world-renowned universities. Notable amongst his R&D achievements are commercialization of electronic eye for blind people in collaboration with MSME Delhi and developing UAVs in collaboration with Korean Aerospace Industries Association, South Korea. He is currently working on DRDO-sponsored project on robotics, completing NASCOM-based project on software-defined radio, and mentoring students for Microsoft Imaging Cup competition under software category. Dr. Bhaskar Gupta had been the director of SSITM Aligarh, BIRTM Khurja, and Nitra Technical Campus Ghaziabad, hence having substantial exposure to administrative affairs. Besides, he is fellow member of IEEE, MIT, IE, IETE, and IIRS Dehradun. He has been 6-time coordinator for IIT Delhi Virtual Lab Program and working as nodal coordinator for IIRS ISRO Outreach Program and IITM SAM NPTEL program. But before getting on board with the session, I just want to inform one and all present here that we are organizing this kind of workshops under IIC, that is Institution Innovation Council. IIC was established on 21st November 2018 at JIMS Vasantpur as per the norms and directives of Ministry of Human Resource Development, MHRD, Innovation Cell. The Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India had established MIC at AICTE with a purpose to systematically foster the culture of innovation in the all higher education institutions across the country. The primary mandate of Innovation Cell is to encourage, inspire, and nurture young students by exposing them to new ideas and processes, resulting into innovative activities in their formative years. Now, I'd like to invite Dr. Bhaskar Gupta to enlighten us with his knowledge and experience. Sir, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Gulshan Kumar ji. First of all, let me begin with, I would like to wish each one of you a very happy Makar Sankranti. And it's really an honor and privilege for me to have got this opportunity to express my views for today's session for IIC. This is one of the IIC Q2 activities on design thinking, critical thinking, and innovative design. So I would like to thank Mr. Gulshan Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of BJMC. Would like to thank the HOD of BJMC Department for giving me an opportunity to express my views for today's session. Anita Tandon, Shruti Chopra ma'am, and Neha Singh ma'am. So, and I would like to thank Gulshan Kumarji for the proper management for organizing and smooth conduction of today's activity. So let me begin with today's session, which is about innovation. So I am going to speak about design thinking concepts, going to discuss about design thinking methodology, going to discuss about this unique type of discipline in order to have some innovative design solutions. So let me just begin with a few statements by successful innovators. I would like to name Thomas Edison, who said, there is a way to do it better, find it. So this is the statement by Thomas Edison about innovation, because we are going to implement the concept of design thinking for innovative solutions for design related problems. This is going to be a human centered approach. Design thinking is a human centered approach to innovation. So when innovation comes, so we need to first understand what is an innovation. Innovation happens whenever someone is going to improve on or is going to make a significant contribution to the existing, to something that has already been invented. So that's called innovation. Innovation is also called transforming your knowledge into wealth is also known as innovation. Innovation is a very complex process. In fact, defining innovation in itself a problematic. Innovation is found in different forms. Incremental innovation is there, which is conventional type of innovation, which is not used these days. Then we do have disruptive innovation, where we are going to disrupt the entire existing market. Then we have architectural innovation, radical innovation. So it's a complete cycle. And design thinking is to be implemented for bringing innovation into your product, into your service, into the process. So there are different types of innovations. You can bring innovation for your developed product or the prototype. You can make use of innovation for your online services, e-commerce. You can bring innovation for process. So this is somewhat related to the concept of innovation has been very closely related to invention and creativity. So that I will be discussing. So is it visible? Screen is visible? Gulshan sir, is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's a design methodology that provides a solution-based approach to solving problems. It's extremely useful in tackling complex problems that are ill-defined or unknown by understanding the human needs involved, by reframing the problem in human-centric ways, by creating many ideas in brainstorming sessions, and by adopting a hands-on approach in prototyping and testing. Understanding these 5 stages of design thinking will actually empower anyone to apply the design thinking methods in order to solve complex problems that occur around us, in our companies, in our countries, and even on the scale of our planet. So what is design thinking? So design thinking is a methodology actually, and you are going to make use of this methodology in order to match the people's needs with what is technologically feasible, right? So you are going to have some brainstorming sessions, and how can we apply design thinking for a product development, for online services. So design thinking methodology consists of 5 different stages that I will be discussing in the later slides. Next slide, please. So design thinking is a discipline that uses the designer's sensibility and methods to match people's needs with what is technologically feasible and what a viable business strategy can convert into customer value and market opportunity. Next. So we will be focusing more on the 5-stage design thinking model today, proposed by Hasso Plattner, Institute of Design at Stanford Design School, USA. This is one of the leading universities in USA when it comes to teaching design thinking. This is the first university around the world which started teaching this design thinking course across the world. There was no other university. So let's see. Let us have these stages of design thinking. Let me begin with empathize, define, ideate, prototyping, testing. So any design thinking is incomplete process without having these 5 stages. So we need to understand thoroughly about these stages one by one. So I have already discussed. So we are having, first we have to empathize with others. We have to define the problem statement. After empathizing with others, our end customers, our users of the products or services. Thereafter, we have to ideate. Then we have to develop some prototype, which is the rough prototype, not a final product that is to be launched into the market or that is not exactly ready for commercialization. Finally, we are going for the testing phase of that particular product in order to validate your idea, which is generated by you during your, creativity. So creativity is very important parameter, one of the important parameters for having any innovation. Innovation, in fact, has been found to be closely associated with creativity and invention. Creativity refers to, creativity is novel ideas that are being communicated, useful and appealing. Creativity, comes from your novel ideas. Creativity is an example of fuzzy idea that can never be completed, cannot be clarified until it is made into a prototype form. So creativity is very important for having any kind of innovation. Then it is somewhat related to invention. Invention refers to creating something new, new to the world, created or discovered. Invention requires very important scientific skills. And with the help of these scientific skills, you would be able to create something new to this entire world. Now it's the time to transform that invention into the innovation. So making invention into a product form is the example of innovation. Innovation is something where you are going to make some changes into the pattern for doing something. Innovation requires some kind of strategic skills, marketing skills, and very strong technical skills. And not just this, a good entrepreneur or a successful and innovator requires team building skills also in order to lead a group of members for a successful innovation. Next, please. So empathize. So empathize is something about understanding about your user or the customer to whom you are going to sell your product. So first, your design thinking starts with empathy and compassion. You have to understand the needs of your customer and the user of the product, user of the service, user of the process. If you are not going to understand what is the requirement of the user, what customer wants, what are their wants and needs, you would not be able to, have any kind of innovation in your final product. So the first stage of design thinking process is to gain an empathic understanding of the problem you are trying to solve. This involves consulting experts to find out more about the area of concern. Through observing, you have to observe, you have to engage them, and finally, you have to empathize with the people to understand their experiences and motivations, as well as you have to immerse yourself in the physical environment So you can gain a much more deeper personal understanding of the issues involved. Empathy is very crucial to human-centered design process, such as design thinking. And empathy allows design thinkers to set aside their own assumptions about the world in order to gain better insight into users and their wants and needs. Depending on the timing constraints, a substantial amount of information is
Sir, I
first
have a
gathered at
question.
this stage. Yes?
Sir, but do you think that empathy works in real life?
Empathy works in real life. I think we can have Q&A sessions in the last. Let me
Okay,
just
sir.
finish.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So during this, depending on timing constraints, a substantial amount of information is gathered at this stage to use during the next stage and to develop the best possible understanding of the users, their needs, and the problems that underlie the development of that particular product. So let us have this empathy. So empathy, you are going to see the world. You are going to appreciate your users or primary users so that you would be able to understand them thoroughly. You are going to understand their feelings. You are going to communicate with them. You are going to take feedback from them, what they are thinking about and what are their feelings, which they want to share with you. So once you have empathized with others, you have come out with some problems. Now it's the right time to define your problem statement, which you are going to solve for finding innovative solutions. So next step is to define the problem. During the define stage, you put together the information you have created, whatever the information was gathered from the users, you are going to make use of that database and gathered during the empathize stage. This is where you will be analyzing your observations and so you're going to synthesize them in order to define the core problems that you and your team have identified up to this point. You should also seek to define the problem as a problem statement in a human-centered manner. So to illustrate, instead of defining the problem as your own wish or a need of the company, such as we need to increase our food product market share among young teenage girls by 5%, a much better way to define this problem would be the teenage girls need to eat nutritious food in order to thrive, be healthy, and grow. The define stage will help the designers in your team gather greater ideas to establish features, functions, and any other elements that will allow them to solve the problems or at the very least allow users to resolve issues themselves with the minimum of difficulty. In the define stage, you will start to progress to the third stage, ideate, by asking questions which can help you look for ideas for solutions by asking, how might we encourage teenage girls to perform an action that benefits them and also involves your company's food product or service. So next stage is ideate stage. So what is ideation? Ideation refers to idea generation. So ideate means you are going to ideate now based on your defined statement. So in the second stage, you have already defined your problem statement, and problem statement was defined, which was based on the empathy. So now we come to ideate, which is the third stage of any design thinking process, where we are going to generate our ideas, innovative ideas for a innovative solutions. During this third stage of design thinking process, the designers are ready to start generating ideas, and there are different types of techniques, dear students, in order to have ideation process. You can have number of brainstorming sessions. You can sit together, you can analyze the things, and then you can come out with some innovative and brainstorming ideas. In fact, the government of India is providing, you chance to interact with other communities in Smart India Hackathon, Manthan, and different other hackathons at national level are being organized today. This is only, you have the opportunity to find some innovative solutions to the defined problems. You have grown to understand your users and their needs in the empathize stage, and you have analyzed, and of course you have to synthesize your observations in the defined stage and ended up with a human-centered problem statement. With this solid background, you and your team members can start to think outside the box to identify new solutions to the problem statement you have created, and you can start to look for alternative ways of viewing the problem. Next. Next slide, please. So there are hundreds of ideation techniques, such as brainstorming, brainwrite, worst possible idea, scamper. Brainstorm and worst possible idea sessions are typically used to stimulate free thinking and to expand the problem space. It is very important to get as many ideas or problem solutions as possible at the beginning of the ideation phase. You should pick some other ideation techniques by the end of the ideation phase to help you investigate and test your ideas so you can find the best way to either solve a problem or provide the elements required to circumvent it. So the fourth stage, which is also one of the important, steps without having development of prototype. Prototype is the only way to validate your idea. Whatever, the problem was created and, some problem statement was defined. So prototype is a product which you are going to make this prototype innovative so that finally you are going to launch it into the market as a minimum viable product. So this is a rough prototype. I am not saying this is the final product, but this particular prototype is first to be tested among the users and customers in order to know whether your developed prototype will work or not, whether it is innovative product, whether it is an innovative service. That's why, during COVID-19, various startups, were started. And today, presently, India is having more than 40 unicorn startups across the country. Thanks to the Prime Minister Modi, who initiated the scheme of Startup India in order to help out those budding entrepreneurs who were ready with their rough prototypes and wanted to transform their idea into the innovation. So prototype is the way to test your product before you are going to launch that final product into the market as a minimum viable product. Prototype, the design team will now produce a number of inexpensive, scaled down versions of the product or specific features found within the product so they can investigate the problem solutions generated in the previous stage. Prototypes may be shared and tested within the team itself, in other departments, or a small group of people outside the design team. This is an experimental phase. I have already told you this here. During this stage, you are going to perform experimentation. So this is the experimental phase, and the aim is to identify the best possible solution for each of the problems identified during the first 3 stages. Next. The solutions are implemented within the prototypes, and one by one, they are investigated and either accepted, improved, or re-examined or rejected on the basis of the user's experiences. By the end of this stage, the entire design team will have a better idea of the constraints inherent to the product and the problems that are present, and have a clearer view of how real users would behave, think, and feel when interacting with the end product. So now it's the time to go for testing and evaluation. You are going to perform evaluation. You have to evaluate whether your developed prototype is working well or not, whether you are ready to launch it into the market for better commercialization. Innovation may be thought of as, sum of creativity and commercialization. So innovation is needs creativity, and then you are going to make use of your knowledge in order to generate wealth. That is a part of the innovation. So now we have to undergo testing and evaluation phase. Designers or evaluators rigorously test the complete product using the best solutions identified during the prototyping phase. This is the final and last stage of this 5-stage model, but this is an iterative process. The results generated during the testing phase are often used to redefine one or more problems and inform the understanding of the users, the conditions of use, how people think, behave, and feel, and to empathize. Even during this phase, alterations and refinements are made in order to rule out problem solutions and derive as deep an understanding of the product and its users as possible. Of course, this design thinking is non-linear in nature. This is a non-linear process. We may have outlined a direct and linear design thinking process in which one stage seemingly leads to the next with a logical conclusion at user testing end. However, in practice, the process is carried out in a more flexible and non-linear fashion. For example, different groups within the design teams may conduct more than one stage concurrently, or the designers may collect information and prototype during the entire project so as to enable them to bring their ideas to life and visualizing the problem solutions. Next. So what are the innovative solutions? Ultimately, our goal is to implement design thinking process or methodology to develop innovative solutions. Here are some of the most profitable organizations across the world that you have already used and using design thinking process for creating innovative products, services, or processes. Toyota is very popularly known today, very widely known for its innovative designs in automobile industry. Apple is is an American multinational company, very popularly known for iPhones. In fact, 60% of the finance or annual turnover is based on their unique designs of iPhones. Apple has always been known for their unique designs. The strategy was they are not going to having any competition with others. In fact, Steve Paul Jobs stated that rather than having competitors, we don't have to waste time in that, and we have to think differently. The punchline of Apple Corporation has been think different. So they are thinking differently and coming out with very innovative and unique designs. And that's why the people, this year only, the Apple has become the largest company in the world by revenue. The company was able to cross $3 trillion, market cap by 2022. It's the largest company by revenue. So Apple has always been using design thinking process. Microsoft, everybody is knowing, is also going to make use of design thinking process. Samsung Electronics is also very popularly known for unique designs in the mobile phone industries. Bank of America, PepsiCo, and of course Nike. There are a number of companies, those have implemented this design thinking process at their workplace and successfully innovated their product items, and they are popularly known. And there are a number of examples of successful innovators. Mark Zuckerberg is there, Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates. These are few examples of successful innovators. They didn't have any graduation degree. Steve Jobs was not having any of degree, but he started his business with that kind of creative thinking process, different thought process, and came out with some innovative design thinking solutions and started and founded Apple Corporation a couple of years back. And there is no one who is not knowing about Apple Corporation. So course curriculum, if we are going to talk about course curriculum, Stanford University is already running a number of design thinking based courses where we have to understand the importance of design and what the design thinking is. Of course, we have to understand, we have to write the problem statement also. Understand, we have to strongly understand our stakeholders and users. We have to understand about the feelings of others. That is a part of empathy. We have to current scenarios to identifying pain points, ideation and voting, and deriving goals from the ideas. Of course, second last stage is prototyping. And once your prototype is ready, a rough product is ready based on the problem statement, you have to create your pitch deck. So pitch deck where you are going to discuss about your startup, about your product which you have developed. So you have to be ready with your pitch deck. So without, innovation is never possible without critical thinking. So critical thinking is very important, and I have already discussed. This is something, creating novel ideas, and critical thinking, novel ideas are fuzzy ideas. So you cannot explain, that idea until your idea is being transformed into a product form. It's a fuzzy basically. So it is something, where you are going to, which you are going to communicate to the outside users. So without critical thinking, no invention, no innovation is possible. Critical thinking is intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, evaluating information gathered from or generated by observation, experience, reflection, reasoning, or communication as a guide to belief and action in its exemplary form. It is based on universal intellectual values that transcend subject matter divisions, clarity, accuracy, precision, consistency, relevance, sound evidence, good reasons, depth, breadth, and fairness. So why critical thinking? Everyone thinks it is our nature to do so, but much of our thinking left to itself is biased, distorted, partial, uninformed, or downright produced. Yet the quality of our life and that of what we produce, make, or build depends precisely on the quality of our thought. Shoddy thinking is costly both in money and in quality of life. Excellence in thought, however, must be systematically cultivated. So how can we define? So critical thinking is that mode of thinking about any subject, content, or a problem in which the thinker improves the quality of his or her thinking by skillfully taking charge of the structures inherent in thinking and imposing intellectual standards upon them. A well-cultivated critical thinker raises vital questions and problems, formulating them clearly and precisely, gathers and assesses relevant information using abstract ideas to interpret it effectively, comes to well-reasoned conclusions and solutions, testing them against relevant criteria and standards, thinks open-mindedly within alternative systems of thought, recognizing and assessing as need be their assumptions, implications, and practical consequences, and communicates effectively with others in figuring out solutions to the complex problems. Critical thinking, in short, is self-directed, self-disciplined, self-monitored, and self-corrective thinking. It presupposes assent to rigorous standards of excellence and mindful command of their use. It entails effective communication and problem-solving abilities and a commitment to overcome our native egocentrism and sociocentrism. So which are 6 steps, you all must be knowing Bloom's taxonomy. So in 2001, there was a revised, version of Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom, actually defined the 6 levels of learning under cognitive learning. 6, steps have been defined. and all are conceptually different. So if we start from first one, it's remember. So you have to remember something. Without these 6 steps of Bloom's taxonomy, these are the 6 steps of cognitive learning defined by Bloom, where you cannot have any critical thinking, which is very, very much required for innovative designs. So we will start with remembering, understanding. We have to apply, analyze, evaluating, creating. So if you look at this pyramid of Bloom's taxonomy, you can start from the lower side with knowledge, comprehension. Once you have gained some knowledge, you are going to comprehend. Third one is application. You are going to apply that knowledge in different domains for your particular application. You have to apply that knowledge. You are going to analyze. That becomes a part of analysis. Whatever you have, knowledge you have gained, you have to now analyze, you have to synthesize, you have to perform evaluation, and after evaluation, you are going to create something. You would be able to create anything of your own, having gained the knowledge of the important levels of cognitive learning defined by Bloom. Design thinking recap. Let's have one recap of design thinking. So we definitely have to empathize with people's needs. We have to collaborate with others across disciplines, skill sets, and perspectives. Include every idea in visible form for evaluation, and repeat iterating and testing solutions to perfect them, always with human needs at the center. So here, the design thinking process, if we look at, here we have a problem space. Next slide, please. Next. So let's have design thinking process usually is having, divergent methods and convergent methods. So here we start with the problem space, and finally we do have solution space on the right side of the screen. So we start with empathizing, which is mainly the divergent process. And then here, we are going to ideate. So ideation is again divergent process. Then lastly, we are going to perform prototyping and testing, which is a part of validation. And this is the solution space. Prototyping and testing is a design solution, actually. Design solution of any design challenge. So prototyping and testing is usually convergent in nature. Next, please. So here in this design thinking branding, if you look at the number of schools, number of educational institutions have been using design thinking for processes, for innovating. They wanted to innovate, and they made use of these different stages of the process. Design thinkers group has already used, they have empathized, framed, ideate, prototyping, and testing. Stanford Design School has also used different number of stages: empathy, define, ideate, prototyping, testing. IDEO has used gathering, generate, make, share. Luma Institute, looking, understanding, making. In fact, Apple worked, in collaboration with IBM, and IBM started using the concept of observing, reflect, and make. FSU Innovation Hub has been successfully using the stage empathize, ideate, and then build. Next. So if you look at, the problem statement, so how might we improve the grocery shopping experience in a manner that positively impacts people and the environment? This could be my problem related to my grocery shopping problem. So thank you. That's all from my side. Gulshan sir?
Yes, sir.
So that's all. The PPT is over, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with this informative session. Now, students, if you have any question, you can write it in the chat box. If you have any question, few students were asking questions.
Yes, please ask. If you have any questions, you can ask.
You can write it in the chat box. Students, if you have any question, you can write it. Students, if you have any questions, you can write it in the chat box. So the question is there. Sir, you kept repeating a term fuzzing. I didn't understand what it meant. From Anurag.
Which one? Fudging?
Fuzzing. Yes, sir.
Fudging has been used there.
But you said that yes. He's saying yes.
Fudging has been used, somewhat to deal with some complex problems. It's a way to handle a problem.
Any more question?
That's
Manan, you were asking a question, Manan.
Apologies, sir, I forgot.
You forgot. Okay.
Sir, actually, I was asking about the concept of empathy. Does that really work in real life? Because what I've been seeing since that
See,
empathy.
I would like to answer your question.
Sure, sir.
The empathy is the very first stage of any design thinking process, which is a non-linear process. If you directly, how can you define your problem statement once you have not understood the feelings of your end users and who are going to be your customers? See, how if you are a team leader, you have to listen to others also, or other team members. Otherwise, that's the empathy is to, show compassion towards your end users in order to understand their feelings, gathering data in order to define the problem statement in a very well manner, in a precise manner. You can directly go to define the problem statement without having empathy, no problem. But maybe once you are going to launch your developed product or service into the market, maybe your startup will fail, maybe your product will not be that innovative in design which it had been. So so you can directly go. So I'm not saying invention is never required for innovation. You can directly have some fresh ideas and you can do innovation without having any intervention of invention. So just like that, empathy is not compulsory, but usually you definitely you have to understand the needs of others. You should understand their feelings in order to make your perfect product. So probability will increase that more innovation will come into the project or service. Anything else?
Yes, so students, if you have more questions, you can write it in the chat box. If you have any more questions, you can write it in the chat box. Sir, there is a question from Arya. Sir, how can we distinguish between the difference between sympathy and empathy? Sympathy and empathy.
Sympathy, or sympathy is something related to the personal grief or personal sorrow. It is somewhat a non-technical term. So when you are going to express sympathy towards your user, your friend, your family member, there comes the use of sympathy. But if we are going to talk about a business venture, entrepreneurial ventures, then empathy comes into the picture. So that's the big difference. Both are, however, same. Sympathy is a non-technical one where you are going to express your feelings for your friend's sorrow if he is in grief. So you are going to, help him out by expressing sympathy. So sympathy has to do nothing with the business ventures. So when it comes to business, you have to talk in terms of empathy. Empathy, we are going to understand their feelings. We are going to gather data that is relevant to our business, So that is the difference between sympathy and empathy.
Okay, students, you can also find the attendance link in the chat box. In the meanwhile, you can also fill the attendance sheet. Everyone, you can find the attendance link in the chat box, everyone. And if you have any more question, you can just write it in the chat box. Students, if you have any more questions, you can write it in the chat box. And you can find the attendance link in the chat box. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you very
now
much.
we have one more question. Okay, sir, just let me take this question. Sir, what takes me to publish my own newspaper? Manan is asking this question. Manan is asking this question, sir. What takes me to publish my own newspaper?
Would you please repeat? I couldn't understand.
Sir is asking that what takes me to publish my own newspaper? He wants to publish his own newspaper. I think
because you are from a journalism and mass communication department. So first, just before you want to publish your own newspaper. So rather than publishing newspaper directly, you must first start writing some technical, non-technical articles in local magazines, and you should start from that side only. You should go for copywriting your articles, and thereafter you can plan to publish your newspaper. So publishing newspaper is the very last stage. So you must first start with writing some articles related to your society, on social issues relevant to the environment. So and then get them copyrighted, and then you can think of starting or publishing your own newspaper.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you again for sharing your experience with us. It was indeed a wonderful and motivational session for all of us. And with this, we come to the end of the event. Thank you all for attending the session. And students, before leaving this session, you have to fill the attendance form. Okay. Thank you, sir. You can leave now.